Hi, welcome to Strike a Match. I am Terry Finnegan Lynch, and I'm so very happy that you're here today. Strike a Match, what is it? Well, we're a podcast about positivity. I'm delighted to be partnering with Enlightenment Radio to carry that message of positivity and how it can affect our lives, and how coaching is a model of care that you might find very interesting and helpful on your wellness journey. So why do we call it Strike a Match? Well, because I'm inviting you to consider some action, to create a spark. When we're in the dark, just a small flicker of light can provide the way, So I love the fact that Strike a Match is about inviting action and to introduce you to a variety of coaches that serve a whole population of need in our healthcare journey. Now, I'm a life coach. We have health coaches and relationship coaches and all kinds of different aspects of care. But why I do family life coaching, which is my specialty, is because of my journey. I raised a family. I have 3 children, and I didn't do a great job at it in the peak of that experience. And, what happens in all of our lives is that some really troubled waters, we hit some really troubled waters. And, how we fare through them is, based on our abilities and our circumstance. And, the blessings of different people that come into our lives. So what I do as a family life coach is I appreciate that what happens to one person in a family happens to everyone. And therefore, everyone is involved in both the problem and the solution. So I love to invite parents and kids, siblings, into a conversation and a process that helps look at our habits that are creating some of the turmoil that we're in, and some of the perceptions and illnesses that are kind of resonating in our family. And together we work individually, but as a unit, to find a solution that everyone's participating in. So there's this independence and there's unity, and everyone's using the same system of support. So everyone grows at the same pace. Well, not exactly the same pace. That would be ideal. But rather than, one person going off for help, for treatment or whatever, when each person in the family participates in the process, then there's a similarity about the growth that everybody's going through. And that appreciation and unity allows for understanding and compassion and change, which is really remarkable. So I have a unique coaching model, and I love to share it with you. My website is masterwellnesscoaching.com, and you can visit it at any time. Really glad that you're here today, though, because this podcast, we're inviting one of my fellow coaches from my school, HCI, and she supports caregivers. And we are in a very challenging time where there's a lot being asked of caregivers in their families to provide the support that elders need, that people with diseases need, that children need. And Cheryl, as a coach for the caregiver, has a lot to offer, and I'm really looking forward to bringing her out. So what I wanted to share about is my training, right? So coaches all over the world have all different schools that they go to be certified. And what each coach is searching for is that training that really fits who they are and what matters to them. So for me, I became a sober woman at 45 years old, and then took this journey through, AA. Then I went to nursing school, and then I did some photography. I became a Reiki master, and ultimately landed in life coach school. And what I found when I found my school is that the program of change that they focus on is called the Transformational Coaching Method. And I love it. It took what took me 15 years to acquire as my evolution. They translated it into this beautiful program in about 3 months. And there's a process that we take in each of the sessions that is remarkable. And that's what I want to share with you today. Transformational coaching has a 5-step model. And the first part is about stepping back. Now, you've heard the phrase, you can't see the forest through the trees. Well, when I was raising my children and drinking daily and really struggling, I couldn't see what I was creating. I was just in that survival mode. And it was years before I could step back. And I'm going to share with how that happened in a little bit. But the first step is in this process is to step back. And then the next piece is about letting go. Because once we see, oh, this isn't working, the next invitation is to let go. And we hear that all the time, let go, let God. But what I know to be true is that if we let go without replacing it with something better, then we will boomerang back and take it back. So the third part of the process is saying yes to something new. So in the same sequence, we're going to step back, let go, and say yes. Now, what happens for a lot of clients is they don't know what that yes is. Like, what do I want to say yes to? What do I want to replace this with? And that's where we partner together to find that truth. What is it that you want? Because right now we're so comfortable with what we have, it's sometimes quite hard to vision what we really want to go to. So together we do that. And then the fourth part about it is anchoring it. Okay, so now I know what it is that I want to let go of and replace it with. But how do I make sure that I am in that new space, that I'm holding on to this new idea? And so we use experiential exercises, fun, reliable patterns of behavior that change our mind and anchor this new idea. And the fifth part is accountability. It's really hard to sustain something without someone holding us to it. Going to the gym, we do better with a trainer. Going to school, we do better with a study partner. Losing weight, we do better with, a check-in system. So accountability is a very, very strong element of our coaching model, of the transformational coaching model. And it is a good kick in the butt, and it's love and appreciation and kindness and understanding. So that's what we do in my coaching model, and we repeat that in every session. So I mentioned that it's a program for me that's 12 weeks long. And so every week we use this model to anchor a new process that's going to change the habits that don't serve us anymore. So imagine your family, mom, she says yes to this opportunity to up-level her family, and she starts and does this process, and then we bring the teenager in, and he starts this process, and then maybe we bring a sibling in and she starts this process, and everybody's experiencing the same: stepping back, letting go, saying yes, taking action, and being accountable. Imagine the energy that you'll share and the hope that is there for each person in the process. It's a pretty wonderful thing. So that's how my coaching model goes. And many of my classmates use the same model, but in a totally different service. Their industry of coaching is different. Yet we are utilizing this very, very successful and systematic process of habit change, of changing thought, emotion, and behavior. So what I wanted to explain next is how I came to that new place, that stepping back. I am very blessed to be an author. The book is called Hope is for Always, and it's a collaboration. And there are many authors from my school. And in it is my story of my share, and it's called My Classroom of Hope. I've had this story in my head my entire sobriety. It was called something different than My Classroom of Hope. It was called Direct Dial originally in honor of my mother. But what happened was I was invited to participate in creating this story, and I wanted to share with you the greatest stepping back, letting go, saying yes, and taking action of my own that was inspired by my 16-year-old son. The front row seat to my transformation was gifted to me by my son. This brave, forward-thinking 16-year-old advocated for himself on November in 2002. After years of parental dysfunction in our home, Brian took a stand one morning with this declaration: "Mom, I will not live like this another day. One of you has to go." Brian was championing for his well-being and invited me to do the same. My reply to Brian was, "Your dad won't leave." And he said, "I know, Mom." I said, "Brian, if I leave, it's because I love you, not because I don't." And he said, "I know that too." I left that day with the shirt on my back. Brian was always a shifter. His physics teacher wrote on a 7th grade report card, "Brian thinks of questions the author never thought of." Brian set us all free. My sober date is 11/11/02. Without Brian's insight, nothing would have changed. Years later, while in college, Brian asked, "Would you like to hear my philosophy on life? It has a wrinkle in it." And I remember smiling at that. And he said, "I believe that my soul circled the world seeking a man and woman that were meant to be my mother and father, so that I could become the man I was meant to be. So I cannot resent you or Dad for your choices or behaviors. I needed your journey to play out as it did, so mine could too." I said, "Brian, that's brilliant. Is it an original idea?" And he said, "No." He said, "But when I found it, everything made sense. So I chose to live by it." And so I have a deep place in my heart for my son, not because he is my son, but because he set me free. My mantra, "Brian, you saved my life by saving your own." The reason that I love the coachings that I have been trained in is it has taken so many of my really pivotal experiences of evolution and enlightenment and brought them into a program that I can share with others in a very organized and deep way. And the invitation is for each of us to consider, is my system working that I am operating in right now? Mine wasn't. And, Brian was brave enough to say, this is affecting me and it's not going to anymore. And, I don't know where I'd be without that challenge, So, so I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to share that, the trauma of our lives doesn't have to be all negative. It can be a launching point into the greatest prosperity we could hope for. So I wanted also to share that, it's not just me that I want you to believe in. That, love to convince you that coaching is the most wonderful thing ever. But I also wanted to find resources that will contribute to the fun facts about life coaching. And the HuffPost has a publication that was contributed to. Tom Cassano wrote an article about fun facts about life coaching. So I'm sharing one of his, this is my fourth week of borrowing from that article, so you can reference that if you look it up. But today's message is that coaches are trained to push. So a life coach is there to push you beyond limiting beliefs and habits that build up over the years. By breaking through rigid patterns, you find incredible awareness and strength. With a life coach's skill to push, your limitations disappear and prosperity abounds. The result is inevitable and sustainable change. So I invite you to push the button that allows a coach to come inside your comfort zone and safely encourage you to go outside it, and has tools that allow you to actually practice being over here. The comfort of a habit it's just so familiar. And even though it could be destructive, it's just familiar. So I have a positive tip that's related to my positive tips for a better life are recorded on SM Enlightenment Radio, and you can hear them every few hours. But I bring them into this show by saying, let's share one. So one of the big ones about habits is the clenching people have to worry. So what if you traded worry in for wonder? And listen in.
The tips for a better life with Terry Finnegan Lynch.
What if every time you felt worry, you traded it in for wonder? I'm so worried about my kids. Well, that offers no solution. I wonder what I can do for my kids does. I'm a health and life coach, and these are Terry's positive tips for a better life.
WSME.
So you may not consider that the emotion of worry is a habit. But if you step back and experience worry, what does it do and how often does it show up, and how comfortable are you with it, and how dependent are you on it? So when I was nursing, I would see children of elderly parents come in and be so worried. I'm so worried about my mother. And mom would sit there and feel this angst and energy that was like, am I going to be okay? My daughter seems so worried. What happens in the energy of worry is it literally holds the person you're worried about hostage. Because you're not creating anything that's in the part of solution. It's just a negative energy. So what if instead of worrying about your children, you wonder, what do my kids need? What can I do? I wonder if I just step back and let them play this out on their own, and how will that be? So worry is an energy that puts a hard stop to anything helpful. So I invite you to trade worry in for wonder. And I have a few pictures of the difference of men and women trading worry in for wonder. And you can feel the difference between the struggle of worry and the confidence of wonder. Worry causes you suffering, even though you feel it's associated to love. It doesn't send love. It sends concern and doubt. The difference of a family member showing up in wonder is that they're now trusted. I'm more trustworthy about what's coming next if I'm coming from that positive place of wonder. So this is Terry's positive tip for a better life, and I hope you enjoy it and find it helpful. So I thought when I started this podcast, okay, let's be funny. Well, when I was a young mother, my kids used to say to me, Mom, you're not really that funny. I'm like, I know, but I'm giving it a good go with this podcast. And I have a cartoon today, which is coming up next. So after a few more years of complaining, I think I'll change my life. Why wait, right? We love to complain. We love our habits. They're just so familiar and easy to go to. But you know what? There's a time where you get to step back and say, is this what I really want? Do I want to do this for a couple more years? Or do I want to strike a match today? So thank you for being here on my first half of my broadcast. We are going to go to a commercial break because, there's some good messages out there and some great companies and services for you to consider in support of your wellness and SM Enlightenment Radio. See you soon. Be right back. Hi, welcome back. As you know, I'm Terry. So this is the second half. This is the match. This is the part about where we understand that coaching is a pretty cool concept of wellness. Striking a match means that we're going to take an action, but who with who, right? So what's really important, what I learned as a most valuable ingredient of successful coaching for a client is rapport. And I'll say this every podcast because that's what this is all about. I'm introducing you to people who either I'm, aligned with in my own journey of coaching or have, are in my inner circle, but listen to them because aligning yourself with a coach is meant to be someone you connect with. If you don't feel that, then move on. We're not everybody is the right fit or the right match. And so this podcast, we're going to be here for a long time, is to just keep bringing great people to the table and to the radio and see how you feel about what they say and what they do. And if you connect and it's like, wow, I never even thought that would be helpful to me. But I resonate with this person. Yeah, boom, this is what this is about. Yeah, that's the match. And then you have a call, you talk to them. It's not like you have to sign on the bottom line. You just have a conversation and see if that's as real as you're feeling in this broadcast. So without further ado, although I hate that phrase, I'm really excited and very, very happy to bring Cheryl Hutton to share with me in this co-host match. Cheryl is also a graduate of my school, HCI, I call it my school, our school, and trained in the transformational coaching process. And as I mentioned earlier, her service is for caregivers. So without further ado, here's my friend, Cheryl. Hi, Cheryl.
Hey, thank you, Terry. Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good.
I just, I'm really delighted to be here, but I know we have a lot to talk about, but I want to tell you how powerful your message was for me just now, as a couple of things that you said. What happens in the family happens, or to you, happens to the entire family. And I thought, wow. And then I just loved your tip today about trading worry for wonder. I mean, really, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You know, it's this funny thing is, Cheryl, is I felt that when I was nursing bedside, and then I came to HCI, and they had it in our paradigm class, right? And I was like, see, this is my school. This is hand in glove to what I feel and have experienced and want to share as how valuable it is to change our behaviors so that we can have outcomes that really inspire and help people. Because we're not worrying because we want to hurt people. Yet, how effective is it if we aren't aware of it? So, thank you. Remember when we were doing whatever we were doing together back in school? We shared some class together. I don't remember the details, but we were baby steps into our education and our confidence and our ability as coaches. And now it's a few years later, and we've found what matters to us, right? So tell me about your journey into coaching and what you do and how you serve.
Well, I had been. Well, I'll tell you my story, and because in coaching school, as we all remember, we're really invited and encouraged to find who are we going to serve, right? What population are we really going to focus on? What's our passion? And I remember saying to my wife, Belle, geez, I haven't gained and lost 100 pounds. I don't know who to serve. And she said, Cheryl, you are a caregiver.
Nice.
And I thought, oh my gosh, how true is that? Yeah. And my sort of backstory is that around 12, 13 years ago, my wife, Belle, invited me to go paddling on a small pond in our area, and she never, ever does that. I was absolutely shocked. And we paddled. It was a beautiful fall day, and we got out on a rock, and she said, Cheryl, I have something that I have to tell you. I said, what is it? She said, I have Alzheimer's.
Oh.
And that was prior to my taking the training, of course. But that is what really brought me to this today. And I realized how, I felt like I had fallen off that rock into the bottom of the pond. And I really stayed, metaphorically at the bottom of that pond for a very long time. I was so desperate, looking for help, and that this couldn't be true, and that there must be a clinical trial and what could be done. And I realized there wasn't anything for me to do except for myself to get some help. Right. And I surrounded myself with the professional people and body workers and all of that, and made my way back to the top of the pond. And here I am today, and that's my passion. That's really what I want to do for other care partners.
Yeah, thank you. I can feel that experience from a different distance. My mom has dementia, and last night we got the call that she fell and split her hand open. It's a skin tear, but she ended up with 36 stitches in her hand. And, with COVID, I can't go to the hospital. How is she? Where, how much panic is she in? And it was, it's just a very small experience of that helplessness that you can feel when we're have someone who needs so much care, and we are that dedicated person to that. So tell me what it's like. How do you reach out to people in need, and how do they find you, and what do they do to connect with you? What's that process like for someone?
Well, I have a mailing list, of course, a newsletter list, and I do. I probably should be a little more regular than I am, but I do a fairly regular video tips like you do about what people could do, how they can feel better and a sense of ease and freedom. And then, of course, ask if I can help you. I'm here for you. have a pretty good presence on social media and a large private Facebook group called Confidence for Caregivers.
Oh, so
That's
that
free.
so what's
Yeah.
it called? Confident.
It's called Confidence for Caregivers.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, and quite a number of people in there, and a lot of them have become my clients.
Right.
So
Yeah.
they're supporting one another, and then I work personally with many of them. So.
And that is, so you're, I work in a family unit. You are working in a support group kind of strategy. Here's a place where you can land and experience, the hardship and joy, because there's great joy in being a caregiver. And, share when you need support or when someone else does. So what is your program like? What?
Well, my program is like yours. I do offer some 18-week or 16-week, but really people go for a 12-week habit changing, sort of a 3-month process.
Yeah.
And I follow the guidelines that you were explaining a little bit ago. Although I try to come up with a lot of ways where people can calm the nervous system and feel into their bodies. That is what has helped me more than anything in my quote unquote recovery and floating back to the surface of that pond.
Yeah. This allows for us to be creative, this process, and specific to the needs of the client in front of us. I don't think I have any program that mirrors another one identically. It's just it's so flexible yet concrete. It's very unique, but it's like a boat. We're in a boat and then we paddle it this way or that way, depending upon which way the river goes, right? Right. So what I like to introduce for people here is, there's a resistance that we all have towards help. Spending money for it, committing time to it, admitting that we need it. So what I like to actually ask each coach is, what do you feel is the greatest reason that people say no, no thank you? What do you think that is for your group?
I think for my group, the biggest reason they say no is that they really have a deep belief that they are unworthy and that change is not possible for them. And being a caregiver has them feeling so trapped that there can't possibly be truly a remedy. And
yes,
probably what keeps them from saying yes.
Yeah. I stayed in domestic violence for 16 years. I didn't know there was, something else, right? I deserved it. All of that. That's a familiar story and certainly is that I say sometimes holding hostage. I'm being held hostage by that belief, and therefore I'm holding my patient, my loved one, hostage too, because I'm not evolving into a better version of myself to be there for you,
Right.
which, we don't consider it selfish to not become a higher version of ourselves. We stay over here, right? So, there's the 7 touches, we call it, talking to people, more than once to introduce ideas. It's why we offer so many visuals and messages and ways of creating the confidence someone would have to come join us. When someone says yes, what's their number one relief, so to speak, when they're with you, like at week 3 or 5 or wherever that moment where like, what's that describe like?
The aha moment. I think that it really is a tremendous sense of relief to know that somebody is standing there with them, bearing witness to their journey, because it's a hard journey and it goes up and down all the time. So I think that very often they say, I didn't have anybody to talk to. There's a struggle within the family, perhaps, and there's very often lack of support within the family. Not always, but I hear that a lot. So they're so grateful to be able to, sort things out on a weekly basis and take that next step forward.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for outlining that. And I, because we've come from the place where you are, right? As my client, I have walked in your shoes, right? So there's believability and relatability to the trust that they're placing in you for understanding and guiding and pushing. Today we talked about pushing. I'm sure you do a lot of stretching of your clients' thoughts and the box they operate in to become to relinquish those diminishing values that are the burden.
Absolutely. We do a lot of exercises that have really come from a sort of a Buddhist or a Zen tradition, a lot of exercises around opening the heart. And I have come to realize, especially probably in the past year, that one of the biggest issues for probably all of us, but it really is self-compassion. And so often, particularly care partners, as I like to refer to them, because they are partners, they're partners in the care. They want to do all the caring, but they leave themselves out of the mix so often. And so it really is getting back to that sense of developing a belief that they are worthy. We are all worthy. We can be filled with grace, and we just need to uncover that, and how important that is to be. And I keep going back to that, turning worry into wonder. I have a practice that I've been doing a little bit lately with some of my clients, and it is based on a Zen practice, the 3 tenets. And it is, first of all, living in the unknowing, which reminds me of what you were talking about earlier, which can bring us then to the second tenet or principle in life, which is bearing witness, just being present to what is going on without judgment, without bringing our story to it. And if we can accomplish those 2 things, even in a split second, we are then invited to open our hearts and feel that compassion. We're invited to take compassionate action, which might not be doing anything, which we all want to do something to fix it, right? But it might be doing nothing.
Yeah, it's interesting because this is this is not a lesson plan on how to take care of someone. This is a lesson plan on how to take care of yourself. Exactly. So that there's more, I mean, as I was reading about Brian, my son, he knew he was dying on the vine, and he's like, I'm not doing this anymore. Right. And then, what he did was he went and he searched while he was in school for an explanation to why his life was so complex. And at a very young age, he found that. And there's also something I want to share that when Brian was very little, he couldn't transition from one thing to another. It was always a struggle, like even going from Tinker Toys to Lincoln Logs. So I always, for some reason, I knew how to do this. I think it's why I'm the coach that I am. Was I was able to create this trust place that Brian could go from this place to that place. So fast forward to 4th grade, so he's 10 years old, and we're in the car and we're doing a map assignment where he has to draw from home to school. My kids always went to private schools. We were privileged enough to do that. So they never were on a yellow school bus. They were always in my car. But so we're doing this assignment, and he always sat in the back seat because he wasn't the oldest. Michael was the co-pilot. Brian was in the back seat. So he didn't know how to do this map. And so we're doing it together, the 2 of us. And he says to me, Mom, I know what you've been doing for me for all these years. I'm like, you do? He said, yeah. He said, I don't think anyone did this for Dad, did they?
Aw.
And I said, probably not, Brian. And he said, well, thank you, because I would have ended up just like him.
Wow.
10 years
You have amazing children, Terry.
So that gift of knowing that we need every opportunity to become our highest self, even in the freaking struggle, we need to look for the support that's going to give life to us, right? I was talking to a potential client, and I said, when you become a higher version of you, the world is a better place.
Yes.
We do not gain by your own limitations and your settling for what is comfortable and familiar. It is the invitation to stretch that into this higher version of yourself, and the world is a better place.
Absolutely.
So I love what you're doing for people. I also can appreciate how hard it is for them to say yes. And audience, can you just imagine how these caregivers feel in this setting, how you as a caregiver can feel working with Cheryl as an advocate, as a teacher, as a partner in the journey of understanding caregiving. Now, this is not what I do. My mother's over here in a setting that I'm not directly related in her care. So you're not my match. That's what this is about. Your match is for the person that is actually doing this and is hurting, right? Right. Yeah. And so that's why I invite all, coaches to join me to show how diverse what we offer can be to the audience. If you have an elder or a partner or a child that is your role, your relationship is a caregiver, we want you to reach out to Cheryl and have a conversation, to see what's missing, right?
Right.
Yeah. So what would be a testimony of a client that you can recall?
Well, I knew you were going to ask me this, Terry, and I dug one out. It's fairly gushy.
Oh,
So,
good. Let's hear it. I'd love to.
I think I'll try to leave out some of the gush. A client of mine that I worked with, which, by the way, some of these clients that I have continued on. I mean, which is a wonderful, salute to me and to them. They just want to continue on and continue to do the work. And, for a long, long time. I have some who I've been working with for 18 months.
Yeah.
It's astounding.
Yeah.
But at any rate, this woman writes that Cheryl worked tirelessly each week, listening with compassion and understanding in a non-judgmental way, which, as we both know, non-judgment is like really a big deal. But she says Cheryl used a myriad of methods to help her relax and calm her fears and allay her anxieties. And she followed up each week with meeting notes and recordings. The recordings, very often what I do guided meditations with singing bowls and sound bath healing, and I will make personal meditations and send them. She says she comforted me with tender honesty. She said, I'm grateful that Cheryl came into my life when she did, because I was a wreck. In the months we worked together, she gently encouraged me to care for myself, mentally and physically, not just with words, but with concrete actions. She helped me come out of the shadows and up from the depths of anguish. And for her help during this difficult time, I'm truly grateful.
Thank you, Cheryl. That's why we do this.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I always say when I finish with a session with a client, I say, because I'm kind of pals with God, I say, God, thank you for entrusting me with your children.
Yes.
You know, I take this very seriously. This is a service, an obligation, a responsibility, and it works. So the confidence that I have, and the testimony that you just described, that transformational coaching works in many different models. I am very grateful to share the stage with you in this journey of service.
Well, I'm grateful. Thank you for this opportunity, and it's really been a pleasure to reconnect with you.
Yeah. Thank you. This has been a real fun to find my coaching pals again. But thank you for joining me today. Today is 2/21/12. So what a special numeric day. And
Wow.
yeah, I love looking at things like that. And I'm like, that's a pretty cool day. So thank you for being here, and we'll have contact information posted on the screen for people to reach out to you, Cheryl. And thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Terry.
You're very welcome. Honestly, this stuff is very moving. It's very real. Change is possible. Positivity is everything. I am so grateful to SM Enlightenment Radio for giving me this platform to share my gift and the gift of my friends with you. Please join us next Sunday for another Strike a Match broadcast with a new coach and a new idea. You can find us on YouTube on SM Enlightenment Radio, and I have my own YouTube channel, Terry Finnegan Lynch, if you'd like to check out my other videos as well. A heartfelt thanks to all of you, truly, for listening in, for being a part of this positivity journey and creating the energy of love and light. And I wish you the very, very best Sunday and week to follow, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much. Bye.